I just upgraded from a 25 quart Kong cooler to a 21 quart APL20 ICECO fridge. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, for the last 3 years, I've been primarily using a Kong cooler to keep my beer and food items cold while I'm on my overlanding off-roading trips. But I've recently just upgraded to an ICECO APL20 12 volt refrigerator. This thing is, the APL20 is for 20 liters. Conveniently, that's also similar to quarts, so it's about 21 quarts, like 20.8 quarts. Body here is made out of a aluminum frame, so most of it is a brushed aluminum with the edges here kind of being reinforced with a more shiny kind of plastic material, but the whole entire frame is made out of this brushed aluminum. The brushed part of it is nice because it doesn't get a lot of smudges on it. It doesn't show dirt as easily. The aluminum is what makes this refrigerator or freezer so light. It's 23 pounds, which is probably one of the lightest 12 volt refrigerators on the market in this space, in the overlanding community. So the aluminum frame is what makes that possible. It also gives it a very sleek and aesthetically appeasing appearance. If you're like me, I think that kind of form and function can go hand in hand. So not only things do they need to perform well, but I think that we can also make them look beautiful as well. I think both can go together. It just takes a little more effort to do that. So that's one of the things I really appreciate about this cooler. Way it looks very good, but that also supports more of a functionality, as in it's a lot lighter than kind of like your average 12 volt refrigerator. The brushed aluminum exterior also provides a corrosion resistant exterior. And it's very strong for how light it is. I mean, aluminum's not like steel, obviously. You know, if you had this thing in the back of your truck bed and it wasn't secured and you had things banging up against it and it was bumping around while you're rock crawling or off-roading, you could very well get some decent scratches and dents in here and everything, okay? But this isn't the type of item that you're gonna have unsecured. You're gonna wanna make sure it's secure. You're gonna wanna either have it in the back of your back seat, tied down so it's not bouncing around, or if you have it in back of your truck bed, you want to make sure it's tied down, secured, that things aren't banging up against it. ICECO also offers a rail system that secures to the truck bed, and then this gets latched to the top of it, and then you slide it out, slide it in. They don't make that for this specific model. This is one of their smallest models of cooler that they make. But they do make it for their bigger options, which is nice, especially when the bigger options are a little more heavier and bulkier to carry around. It's also one of the smaller options that's available on the market today. The reason, 20 quarts is really, this is probably one of the smallest ones that ICECO offers, and it's also, a lot of brands don't even offer a cooler that's this small. And so that's really nice for me because my whole setup space is really an issue for me, and so being able to save as much space as possible is kind of a priority for me, and so this size fits perfectly inside of my back seat, and I'll show you that here in a second, the way I kind of have it set up. So this cooler uses a ICECO compressor, which is a German company that makes those. Its usage is 293 watt hours per 24-hour period, so you're going to be using 293 watt hours per day. So if you have it running for 24 hours straight, that's how much you're going to consume. You can do that math to kind of figure out, if you have it plugged into your battery, you have it plugged into your truck, how long this fridge is going to, how much it's going to consume, how long your battery is going to last, how big of a battery do you need to power it, how often do you need to charge it, etc. This refrigerator is controlled by an app, and it's also controlled through buttons on the side as well, so you don't have to use the app. That's very convenient. If it was only an app, that'd be kind of annoying because you'd have to pull out your phone and log into the app just to turn up, you know, temperature or turn it off or whatever, but they offer both, so you can kind of use whatever best in the moment. Maybe it's a little easier just to mechanically just press the button, turn it on. Maybe it's easier to use the app because maybe you're away from the truck, or maybe you're, you know, off somewhere else, or you're sitting, you know, enjoying the creek bed or whatever you're doing, and you don't want to have to walk up to the cooler. You can also check the status of the temperature. You can see if it's still running. Say you're, you know, far away and you need to identify whether or not, you know, the battery's low, or is the refrigerator still on, did the battery die, stuff like that. You can also control, we'll go more into the app. Got a little bee there. We'll go more into the app a little bit later. Okay, this is the lid and handle design. Okay, so it's secured by these latches. Pretty easy to do and undo. Secure pretty easy. Tied down, undone. Lift it up here. You have this kind of rubber exterior part that's going to make this a lot more airtight. One of the nicest features about this is this lid doesn't just slam down. It kind of stays put. So I can open it. I don't have to worry about keeping the lid open while I'm digging in here, or maybe I'm trying to load stuff in, and you know, I'm inside the truck bed here, and you know, it's hitting the ceiling, so I can't open it all the way in order to keep it from falling down. So it can be open kind of halfway like this, and it still won't fall down, so I can still kind of put stuff in here and not have to worry about the handle constantly falling down or being in my way. So, you know, that's not something that you may consider as important at first, but the more you keep using this thing, the day in, day out, loading it, unloading it, that becomes a lot more noticeable and a lot more handy. The handles here are spring loaded, so there's a little bit of force here, not too much, and then they kind of slam back on their own, so that'll help keep them out of the way when you're loading it inside of the vehicle. They're not going to be poking out, getting stuck on things. They're just going to stay nice and flush on their own, and then when you need to lift it up, you just get underneath and pull out. Okay, I kind of wanted to demonstrate how light this cooler is. 23 pounds. Sometimes that doesn't really mean anything, it's just a number, but I'm literally holding this thing over my head and talking to you, and you know, trying to think about what to say about it, and it's pretty easy, you know. Bring it down here, move it around. It's very light, and you know, yeah, I work out a lot, and I'd say I'm probably decently strong. But the fact that this is so easy for me to move means that for your average person, it's probably going to be very easy to move around. It's going to be easy to load. And that's even more important once you have items inside the refrigerator, because that's going to start to make it a lot heavier. So the amount of weight you can reduce, the most amount of weight, it's going to make a huge difference. In the Army, we have a saying that ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. There's two ways that you can power this refrigerator. It is a 12-volt fridge. The primary way, especially for me, is going to be using this AC adapter here, and that's going to be plugged into a external battery. Or the fridge also comes with another cable that will plug into your cigarette lighter inside of your truck. So let's say you're only going to be out for a little while, or you know the truck's going to be running for most of the trip. You could have this plugged in and it'll go off your main battery. I know a lot of people who make and modify vehicles put a secondary battery and under the hood near the engine of their truck, and then they have a lot of their, you know, toys and stuff like this and utilities plugged into that secondary battery. So that's also an option too, and if you have your cigarette lighter hooked up to that battery, etc., then that would be also a way where this would come in handy. But let's show you how this kind of works. We're going to plug it into my Blue Eddy battery. This is the EB700. I've had this for like 3 years now, so it's been a long time. So after confirming, it's 716 watt hours and then 700 watts of output. So that's like enough to power a blow dryer or hair dryer and stuff like that. So it's a good kind of just moderate sized external battery. But let's look and see how much power this thing starts to suck up. This is the little plug. You have a little rubber kind of cover here to keep dirt and grime out of the outlet. Just plug it in and then we'll turn it on. Turn the power on here. Alright, so it's turned on. Well, actually I want to make sure these are closed. We're going to turn it down to our setting 37. I think 30, 38. 37 is good for me. So 37 degrees, and we can see here that, turn this on again, we're pulling 26 watts right now, okay? So 26 watts, that's just to get this thing cold, and you know, once it gets down to this certain temperature, whatever temperature I've set it at, it's going to turn off. So it's just like a normal fridge where it turns on and off as it notices the temperature is warming up. So this 27 watts isn't going to be consistent, but it will be, you know, while it's on. So like I said, I would refer you back to the 293 watt hours per 24-hour period in order to make your kind of calculations on how much time you're going to be able to do with this battery. So for example, with my calculations, I figured out that this battery, if I charge it once, will power this fridge for about 2.6 days, okay? And 2.6 days may not seem like a ton of time, but for me, you know, I'm never really staying in the same place longer than 2 days. And I'm always like driving, I'm camping in place and then I'm driving to the next place. And you know, the drive to the campsite is the adventure for me. And if you've seen the videos I make, you'll see that that's what I do. That's what I do, that's how I film. That's the kind of adventure, the fun stuff that I like to do. So I'm never at the same spot for one night. And what I do is I have this battery inside of the truck, and then I have an input coming from my cigarette lighter. So as long as this truck is on, it's constantly charging this battery. And so then this will be plugged into here, and then this is getting charged by the truck. And then at night, when it's time to go to bed, you know, that's only 12 hours tops that this battery will be getting sucked, you know, energy out of it without it being filled up again. And then I also, you know, put my camera batteries and all my stuff, I charge that overnight on this. But I have enough batteries that I don't need to charge during the day. I just charge them once at night, charge everything full, and then the next morning I'm good for filming the entire day. One thing I forgot to mention was the loudness of the refrigerator. So I have my ear. This is the little outlet vent that, you know, if you know how refrigerators work, right? They create heat. So you're taking heat out of the box and you're dispersing heat out here. So they make heat right here. And so you have a vent here dissipating all the heat, and I can kind of hear it operating. If I stick my ear, and if I stick this up, you might be able to hear it. But it's extremely quiet. Like, you're not going to hear this thing unless you have your ear, unless like the surrounding is completely quiet and you have your ear right up next to the vent. Otherwise, you're not going to hear the thing. So I think I think the manual says 32 dB is the sound, so it's extremely quiet. All right, so the manual says that this thing takes 11 minutes to get down to 32 degrees from ambient temperature, like 75 degrees. I think it's 78 degrees here right now. But while we're waiting for that to happen, let's go through the app here. So, all right, so I opened up the app. It's looking for devices. It's found my fridge through Bluetooth. I have it named Orange Fridge. Click on it, it's connecting. Okay. So you can see it's a single zone fridge. It's at 68 degrees right now is the current temp. It shows the temperature I have it set to, 37. I can sit here and I can kind of like adjust that by messing with the dial here. Let's keep it at 38, is what I want it at. I can press it on or off. I can do refrigeration modes. I can switch it to freezing, which puts it to 0 degrees automatically. Back to refrigeration. I can put on eco mode or max. So max will make it go faster, obviously. And then put it back to eco. We want to save power. And then more settings here, so we can look at battery protection, unit of measurement. So we can either go to Celsius or Fahrenheit. I live in America, so we're going with Fahrenheit. Confirm. And then back. And so super convenient, super easy, super simple. Can be useful in certain scenarios, occasions. And like I said, it's really nice when they have both. So you have the app and you kind of have that manual button control. So this is the biggest thing, is this will fit 32 cans of, so say, you know, cans of beer, cans of soda, whatever, it'll fit 32 cans. My old cooler, which was a 25 quart cooler, so it was bigger, I could really only fit like 15 cans in there, and that's because 40% of the cooler is filled with ice. So all that space is wasted. Unlike this, none of the space is wasted. So when you're getting, you know, 21 quarts, you're getting 21 quarts, you know. So you're gonna actually be able to fit a lot more stuff in here, keep it cooler, and it's going to take up the same amount of space or less as like a traditional high quality cooler like a Yeti or a Kong. As far as the warranty and service goes on this fridge, ICECO offers a 5-year warranty on the ICECO compressor. So that's the only really functioning item inside of this refrigerator. So it's a 5-year service and support warranty on that. And then they also offer a year-long warranty on everything else that has to do with this refrigerator. So if latches break, something wrong with the lid, or whatever's breaking or falling apart. If you guys are interested in learning more about this fridge, there is a link down in my description that you guys can click. I do have a 12% discount code as well that you can use to kind of make this a little bit, well, quite a bit cheaper. 12% is a decent amount. So now that we've kind of talked about, you know, the specs and details of this fridge, I wanted to kind of bring up, well, why buy a 12-volt refrigerator in the first place? You know, they're kind of a lot of money. I mean, this is a $500 fridge. I'd say it's very much on the lower end of costs when it comes to refrigerators like this. Most of these fridges cost $800, $2,000, and a lot of companies don't even make fridges this small, let alone this inexpensive and light. So this is definitely more of kind of like just a value fridge that's going to do its job, and it doesn't look like a value fridge. It looks good. It looks like an expensive, nice fridge. And don't get me wrong, it is expensive, but compared to a lot of the other fridges on the market, it's really not. And it's like, if you're going to buy a cooler, a Yeti cooler, a good Yeti cooler is going to cost you $350. And to fit, you know, as many cans and just food items in here as you are in that cooler, you're going to have to get a bigger cooler. The bigger the cooler is, the more expensive it costs, the more space it takes up. You constantly have to go buy ice, basically every day to every other day buying ice. And then the worst part about the cooler is it's not really the ice they're buying. Is, you know, ice is cheap. You're always stopping to get gas anyways. So that's not really the biggest deal. But the biggest deal for me is how much space the ice takes up, and then coincidentally how much bigger of a cooler I have to get. And then everything is just wet. The ice is constantly melting. You can't keep things dry. You can't have fruit in there. It's just hard. You know, either you gotta have a basket, and the basket doesn't have much space, and even then stuff still falls in and manages to get wet. You know, you're like 30 degrees up on some rock obstacle, so everything in there is just getting soaking wet. And so my steaks, for example, whenever I try to use lunch meat, it all just soaked, and the meat, and it all starts to go bad really quickly, you know. And it's never below freezing either. It's never below like 32 degrees, and a lot of meats, you know, want to be on the colder end of things. You know, maybe not your cans of beer and stuff, but if you have meat, you kind of want to keep that on the lower end of that, of just right above freezing, but not at like 40 degrees or 39. You want to get it right at like 33 is the best kind of temperature for meat. Anyways, so it just all stays dry. You can fit so much more in here. And it takes so much more or less space. So I'd say the biggest con to having, you know, a fridge like this is the cost, right? So if you say you're just getting into this kind of stuff, you don't camp very much, you don't do much off-roading, you're on a budget, maybe it's a lot cheaper for you just to go buy a nice $300 cooler. And even maybe you're just doing day trips, and maybe a $150 Ozark Trail Walmart type cooler is also going to be just fine for you. I've noticed the trips that I do, I definitely need a really high quality cooler that holds ice really a long time, like a Yeti or a Kong, or there's a few other brands out there. That's not what this video is about. But the good quality coolers, they cost a lot of money still. So you can buy a $350 cooler, or you can buy a $500 fridge that performs a lot better. Now the caveat to that is that in order to power this fridge, you need most of us, the way we're going to do it is you're going to need some sort of power bank, some external battery. And that's where the cost starts to get a little higher. So this battery I have here, that cost me $500. So yeah, $500 battery, $500 fridge, it's a $1,000 expense. And granted, this battery gets used for way more than the fridge, and I've had it for 3 years, and I've used it for all of my phone, my camera gear, my laptop, everything I do out here I use it for. So it's still a win. But like I said, if you're on a budget and you don't do this very much, or you're just getting into it and you want to see if it's something that you really want to try out, maybe you buy a cooler first, and then when you decide that, hey, I really like doing this stuff, then you move on to buying a fridge like this. But this is definitely kind of the way to go. If you're doing this all the time, 12-volt fridge, absolutely 100% the way to go. And you're going to want an external battery anyways. But keep in mind, you know, the fridge is just another thing that's going to start sucking power out of your battery. So for me, you know, something I have to worry about is this battery, 716 watt hours. When I have I do all this filming, I do YouTube, right? I've been doing this for 3 years. If I have, at night when I'm at the campsite and I have to power or charge all my batteries. So I have like 3 camera batteries. I have 3 drone batteries. I have 2 batteries for my secondary camera. Then I have, you know, the gimbal battery. There's all these batteries that I have to charge almost every night. And those batteries end up sucking up 75% of this battery, 70 to 75% of the battery. So that means I only have 25% left over for something else, which would be this fridge. So for me, that means that it's very important that I'm constantly recharging this battery while I'm driving on my day-long adventure, right? It needs to be recharged every night. It needs to be fully charged. If I had a bigger battery, say I went and bought a 1,000-watt battery or you know, 1,500 watt-hour battery, then that'd be less of an issue, but it'd be heavier, take up more space, etc. So yeah, that's just something you have to keep in mind. Overall, I think having a 12-volt fridge is definitely a way to go. And the 2 biggest reasons is it saves space. You can fit a lot more in less space, and everything stays dry and it stays to the actual temperature that you want to keep it at. And it can go below freezing. So if you want to have ice cream or popsicles or anything like that, sorry, there's just a lot of noises. There's a lot of mountain lions out here, and you always wonder, am I being stalked by a mountain lion? Because, you know, apparently you'll never see it. You'll never know it's there, and that's very true. And then you hear the noises and you're like, not this time, mountain lion. But it's probably just a squirrel. Anyways, so you know, those are the biggest things that I see. You know, the freezer thing too. So say you have kids, or you know, you're kind of taking a whole family. I don't have a family yet. I want to have a family. Hopefully I will one day, but I don't right now, so it's not that important to me. But if you're someone who has a family, you have kids, maybe it's nice to have some kind of snacky type items in there, like ice cream or popsicles, or you know, that stuff's not super healthy. That stuff's not super healthy, so you should eat it in moderation. But I mean, sometimes it's cool, and I like to eat, you know, snacks a lot too. More of a salt, savory type guy, so I like chips. But definitely something that's a huge advantage over a cooler. I hope this video is helpful. If you guys have any questions, just leave a comment in the description. If there's anything else you'd like to know about the fridge, just let me know.